Hello, friends. This is Confessions with Amy. Here we share new confessions every day.
Betrayal doesn't always come with knives. Sometimes, it's wrapped in a smile, wearing a tuxedo, holding a champagne flute. I didn't expect the man to stand up. I didn't expect him to speak. But what I truly didn't expect was for the father of the groom, Elliot Lancaster, a retired investment mogul from Connecticut, to humiliate me in front of 200 wedding guests with a single sentence. To think a girl like her helped raise such a fine bride. Life really does work in mysterious ways. Then he laughed. They laughed. The table of country club acquaintances and second wives with two tight faces. That's when I stood up, glass in hand, my blood boiling under the silk of my emerald dress. You have no idea who I am. And just like that, his face drained of color. Because suddenly, he did. But before we get there, let me take you back. I was 19 when the world turned to ash. We lived in a sleepy, dusty town outside Flagstaff, Arizona. Pine Hollow. Population maybe 4,000. Dad was the anchor of our little home. A school principal, steady and kind. Mom was fragile, always had been. My baby sister, Ren, was only 5 when it happened. A phone call. A crash on Route 180. He was gone before the paramedics arrived. Mom unraveled like a badly knitted sweater. First it was silence, then panic attacks, then pills, then more pills, then a facility, and suddenly it was me and Ren. Just us. I remember the exact moment I understood what that meant. I stood in our yellowing kitchen at 2 a.m., pouring her a glass of milk with one hand, holding a job application for a local diner in the other. I was wearing pajama pants and a hoodie that still smelled like my dad. I looked at her across the table. Ren was coloring in a princess with a green crayon. She looked up and said, "Does this mean you're my mommy now?" I didn't cry. I didn't have time to. I dropped out of college before orientation even began. Moved our things into a 2-bedroom rental above a laundromat. Started working double shifts at Maggie's Diner, bussing tables, then waitressing, then managing. Nights, I cleaned offices for a janitorial company. I memorized Ren's school lunch menu like it was sacred scripture. There were no birthdays for me. No dating. No sleep. I didn't resent her. Not for a second. But the silence of adulthood, that thick, choking kind that presses on your chest when you're the only one awake at 4 a.m. figuring out bills, that haunted me. Still, I made a promise. She would never feel it. The weight. The hunger. The fear. So I carried it all. And it didn't kill me. It built me. The world doesn't wait for you to recover. It doesn't pause because you're young, or tired, or scared. So I didn't pause either. After the dust of the funeral and court hearing settled, I became Ren's legal guardian. The social worker's name was Marla Ridley, and she looked at me the way people look at stray animals, like she didn't expect me to make it through the winter. But I signed every paper, every form, every consent slip. And I made it my religion to prove her wrong. Ren didn't know the details. She just knew that her big sister now packed her lunch with handwritten notes and sat in on every parent-teacher conference. She thought it was fun when we camped in the living room on nights the heat gave out. She didn't know I skipped dinner so she could have seconds. I kept my head down. Worked. Laughed when I could. Learned how to stretch spaghetti for 3 days and use coupons like currency. But something inside me itched. Restless. I couldn't just survive. That wasn't enough. I had to build something bigger. It started with a computer someone left behind at one of the office buildings I cleaned. A dusty old Dell laptop with a busted screen but a working hard drive. I took it home, cleaned it, plugged it in, and Googled how to make money online legally. From there it spiraled. Copywriting, digital design, UX, HTML, tutorials at midnight, Reddit threads, YouTube videos with terrible audio and golden advice. I didn't sleep, but I learned. My first job was designing a logo for a local coffee shop in Prescott. $75. It felt like winning the lottery. I opened a PayPal account under the name of a digital alias, Thorn Studio. It sounded professional, like something that belonged to someone who knew what the hell they were doing. I didn't, not yet. But I was close. Every penny I made online went to savings. By the time I was 24, I had a full-fledged freelance business. I was designing for startups, fitness influencers, local brands. I bought a used Subaru, moved us into a real 2-bedroom apartment with central air, and enrolled Ren in a charter school with a science program she loved. I still worked. A lot. But now I was working for myself. And for her. The first time Ren brought home a straight-A report card and asked if we could celebrate with real sushi, I almost broke down in the parking lot of Nori House. We sat there, eating overpriced rolls, and she looked at me and said, "You're like one of those women in the movies. The ones who lose everything but still win somehow." I smiled. But deep down I knew. I hadn't won yet. I was still in the arena. Still bleeding. Still fighting. And I had no idea that the real test was still years away, standing in a vineyard in upstate New York, in front of 100 strangers, being publicly insulted by a man who didn't know who he was dealing with. But we'll get there. First, let me tell you how I made it all real. It was subtle at first. A steady climb. 1 referral turned into 3. 3 turned into 10. By the time I was 25, Thorn Studio had a waiting list. I didn't market. I didn't have time. My work spoke for me. Quietly, confidently, like I'd always dreamed of doing myself. I had clients in Seattle, Denver, Miami. Startups with weird names like Pinch Bloom and Zavax trusted me with their full brand identities. One day I got an email that changed everything. Subject line, NDA attached. Opportunity with Elevation Labs. I thought it was spam. Almost deleted it. But something about the tone, it was cold, professional. Real. I opened the attachment. It was an actual non-disclosure agreement from a tech accelerator in San Francisco. They wanted a full rebrand. Budget, $85,000. Deadline, 2 months. I remember staring at that number on the screen in the dead of night. Ren was asleep down the hall. There were dishes in the sink. My hands were shaking. I signed the NDA. That job changed the game. My name, well, Thorn Studio's name, got passed around in the kind of circles I never thought I'd even see. 1 month I was Skyping with a founder in a hoodie. Next month, I was sitting across from Viola Hartman, a venture capitalist in Manhattan with a watch worth more than my car. "You don't look how I imagined," she said when we met. I smiled. That's the point. I hired a lawyer, an accountant, a developer. I brought in Callum, my first official employee, a whip-smart, tattooed UX prodigy from Portland. He didn't care that I didn't have a degree. He cared that I could outdesign and outpitch anyone in a room. By the time I was 27, Thorn Studio was grossing nearly $500,000 annually. But with success came shadows. There was the founder who tried to offer me equity instead of paying what we agreed. The CFO who told me to bring a male associate to meetings, just for optics. The influencer who ghosted me after I built her entire Shopify site, then reposted my work under a new agency's name. I didn't scream. I didn't chase. I documented, invoiced, and moved on. Because the people who try to cheat you, they already know you're worth more. That's why they do it. But still, I carried every betrayal like a splinter under the skin. Quiet. Invisible. But sharp. Ren watched it all. She grew up in the glow of a woman who never stopped moving. She started calling me boss lady around the house. Wrote it on sticky notes. Slapped one on my laptop. "You know," she said one morning over waffles, "you should be proud of this. You built something out of ashes." I told her I was just getting started. And I meant it. But no amount of success prepared me for what came next. Ren falling in love. She met Silas Lancaster at Columbia. Pre-law, trust fund, Kennedy jawline. He was kind. Smarter than he looked. They clicked. Fast. Too fast for my taste. They were engaged within a year. And that's when I met his family. The Lancasters weren't just rich. They were entitled rich. East Coast old money, vacation in Maine, we don't do Venmo rich. I could feel it at the first dinner. His mother smiled like she was smelling something sour. His father, Elliot, barely looked at me, except when he did, with that dismissive flick of the eyes like I was help. Ren didn't see it. Or maybe she refused to. She was in love. And I had promised myself I would not ruin this for her. So I stayed silent. Let them talk down to me. Mispronounce my last name. Assume I was Ren's cousin. I smiled, bit my tongue, drank my wine. Until the wedding. And that toast. But we'll get there. Next, let me tell you about the rehearsal dinner. Because that's when I realized the war had started, and I was the only one who knew it. Rehearsal dinners are supposed to be lighthearted. Toasts. Laughter. A little chaos with seating charts. Maybe a drunk cousin misplaces a tie. But this was the Lancasters' show. And they made damn sure we knew it. It was held at a private estate just outside Rhinebeck, New York. Ivy-covered walls, string quartet in the garden, chandeliers in the tent. The kind of place where wine glasses outnumber the guests and the waiters speak French whether you do or not. Ren looked beautiful. Giddy. Nervous. She kept grabbing my hand and whispering, "Is this really happening?" Like a girl who still remembered eating cereal on our old futon. Silas was polite. Distant. Like someone trying to keep two worlds from colliding. The Lancasters, though? Their politeness was a performance, and I was their audience. Elliot Lancaster gave a toast that night. He smiled the whole time, hand on Silas's shoulder like a proud monarch. Tonight, he said, we celebrate legacy. Continuity. Two families joined, not just by love, but by class, by culture, by values. That last word. Values. He looked right at me when he said it. As if to say, you don't belong here. You never did. I kept my expression still. Neutral. The way I did when clients tried to lowball me. I smiled, raised my glass, sipped. Inside, my spine was steel. Later that evening, I found myself alone on the patio, nursing a ginger ale and watching the moon reflect off the glass garden lights. That's when he approached me. Elliot. Not smiling now. He stood beside me like we were co-conspirators. But his voice was low. Sharp. You've done well for yourself, Evelyn, he said. Given the circumstances. I didn't reply. He sipped his scotch. Looked out over the lawn like he owned the stars. But let's not confuse hustle with status. You raised her. Good for you. But you're not her mother. And this marriage, this life, it's not yours to step into. You understand. I turned to him slowly. I don't think you know who you're talking to, I said calmly. He chuckled. I know exactly who you are. You're a girl who got lucky with Wi-Fi and a decent work ethic. I didn't move. Didn't blink. But, in my mind, I was already planning my exit line. The one I'd deliver the next day. The one that would gut him. Publicly, politely, and with precision. He didn't know me. But soon everyone in that damn tent would. I left early that night. Didn't say goodbye. Back in my hotel room, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at myself in the mirror. Ren texted me. Did you have fun? I'm so glad you're here. I typed back. Always. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I meant it. Because I wasn't just attending her wedding. I was defending everything I'd built. Everything I'd bled for. And I had one more thing left to do. The day started with lace, laughter, and a lavender sky. Ren was glowing. Soft curls pinned back, eyes glassy with joy, hands shaking just enough to remind her it was real. She kept asking where her safety pin was. That's what she called me when she got nervous. Because when our dad died, I sewed a loose strap on one of her dresses with a tiny safety pin and whispered, "No matter what happens, I'll always hold you together." I held her bouquet, fixed her veil, held it together, just like I promised. The ceremony was beautiful. Classic vows. Tears. Applause. Then came the reception. The string quartet gave way to a jazz trio. Champagne flowed. Ren and Silas danced their first dance under a canopy of fairy lights. And then Elliot stood up with his glass. No one asked him to. He just stood. Like it was his birthright to speak over everyone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, smiling like a man who believed in his own myth. As the father of the groom, I'd like to say a few words. The room quieted. I felt a knot form in my stomach. I knew that smile. He went on about love, tradition, legacy. He told a joke about lawyers marrying designers, how one builds things, the other breaks them. Polite laughter. And then he said it. But in all seriousness, It's remarkable to see how far people can come. To think a girl like her helped raise such a fine bride. Life really does work in mysterious ways. Heads turned. Mine didn't. There was a silence, dense, hot, and vibrating. Ren's smile froze. I stood up, glass in hand. Calm. All eyes shifted to me. And I said, clearly, evenly, "You have no idea who I am." He blinked. Once. And just like that I saw it. Recognition. Fear. Memory. Because finally, he did. A woman from the next table whispered, "Wait, is she the one who?" A man across the room murmured, "That's Thorne. Evelyn Thorne. Thorne Studio." It rippled. Fast. The name spread like ink in water. And Elliot Lancaster, a man who prided himself on being connected, realized he had just insulted one of Forbes' top 30 under 30 in front of a tent full of potential clients, investors, and New York elite. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't curse. I just looked at him. "I built my sister's life out of nothing," I said. "I worked 3 jobs to put her through school. I founded a business that's now designing for Fortune 500 companies. I don't need your respect. But I'll be damned if you disrespect me again." Silence. So deep I could hear forks hitting plates. I turned to Ren. She was crying, tears of rage and love. She stood, walked over, took my hand, and then applause. Real. Loud. Uncoached. Someone whistled. Someone stood up. Elliot sat down, folded into himself, and I walked out of that tent with my chin high and my spine made of iron. I didn't stay for dessert. After the toast, if you can even call it that, I let Ren hug me, whispered "thank you," and ran a thumb under her eyes so her mascara wouldn't smear in the photos. Then I left. No dramatic exit. No slamming of doors. I just slipped away, heels in hand, walking barefoot down the gravel path to my car under a sky full of stars. It was the first time in years I felt finished. Not tired. Not wired. Just still. The fallout came fast. Elliot issued a private apology through Ren, full of legal polish and zero actual remorse. But it didn't matter. A video clip of my words, "You have no idea who I am," circulated on social media. Someone posted a side-by-side. Me in the tent versus the Thorne Studio website. Then came the LinkedIn posts. The think pieces. Woman CEO shuts down elitist father-in-law at luxury wedding. It went viral. For a week, my inbox was chaos. I didn't play into it. Didn't monetize it. Didn't tweet about it. I just kept building. By 30, Thorne Studio had a physical headquarters in Austin. Minimalist glass, warm wood, a rooftop patio. I hired 8 people. Half of them were women from backgrounds like mine. Smart. Scrappy. Overlooked. We signed contracts with companies I used to cold email. I was invited to speak at panels, but only said yes when the invite was sincere, not because someone saw the viral clip and wanted a headline. And me? I bought a house. Just a modest one. White stone, blue shutters, big kitchen for when Ren visited. She and Silas moved to DC. He's good to her. Genuinely. He stood up to his father the next day. Told him, "If you ever speak to Evelyn like that again, you'll never see us." Credit where it's due. Ren still calls me safety pin. Only now it's kind of a joke. "How's my favorite safety pin CEO?" she texts. Still holding the world together? But here's what no one sees. No cameras. No applause. Just me. Early morning, barefoot on the back porch, drinking black coffee and watching the sun crawl across the stone tiles. Peace. It took a decade, sacrifice, heartbreak, 1,000 silent humiliations, and one perfect sentence spoken into a room full of strangers. But I earned this. And in the end, it wasn't about revenge. Or going viral. Or even proving him wrong. It was about proving me right. I knew who I was, even when no one else did. And now, so does the world.